Excellent. Welcome to our live session. My name is Billy Barnett. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm having a very interesting week. I am working remotely from my aunt's vacation home with my parents and my wife and my kids. And we're having a pretty great time hanging out in the woods, overlooking a creek, and it's pretty relaxing. It's been the first time I've been basically out of my house in months. And so it's pretty cool. So my name is Billy Barnett. I may be your teacher. Chances are I'm not, because there's a lot of you guys in different sections. Yeah, make sure I'm giving everybody what they need instead of just texting to one person. So how are you guys doing? Everybody doing okay? Anybody have any first things they want to knock out question-wise before we get started? I will go over the quests for the discussion board. I will make sure that you leave having your questions answered as far as how to do what's expected this week. We're going to go through the week 3 reading material. I'm going to give you kind of the synopsis, if you will, of what we're learning this week. And hopefully you'll know what you need to do. Tamika, for the initial post, are just the questions due Thursday or your quests as well? That's a great question. The quests are due Thursday. And what we'll do is towards the end of the lecture, we'll spend about 15 minutes. I'm going to go through in detail everything about how you should consider the discussion board assignment. I'm going to make sure you get Billy's hints and tricks on how to get a good grade. And it's the first time we're doing some of those quests, so I'm going to be looking at them pretty closely too to make sure that I am explaining them correctly to you. Yep, the call to play is due on Tuesday night. That would be tonight. And the initial post for your discussion board, which is the 3 paragraphs for the questions, and the creative files for the 2 quests are due Thursday. And then on Sunday, you will have your response posts due. And there you go. That's that. Cool. So let me go through and kind of give you a little bit of intro to me. I'm going to turn my camera off because the camera is really kind of distracting for me. And you know what I look like now, so I'm going to turn it off. There we go. So a little bit about me. I have been teaching this course for 9 years now. It's actually been 2 different courses over 9 years. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. My wife is a speech therapist, and she and I have a business together where she does speech therapy and I do counseling. And I see clients in the evenings whenever I'm not working on full sale stuff. And that allows me to stay industry specific so that I know what the heck I'm talking about when I do psychology stuff. I did photography for well over 15 years as a wedding photographer and a family photographer. I sold cameras for quite a bit of time. I see you guys maybe having some issues with audio and video. Is everybody having it, or looks like it may be just individual folks? So yeah, I did photography for a whole bunch of time. I learned how to run a business, and so that photography business turned into a counseling private practice. And so, a lot of the stuff that I say that's industry specific for you guys is coming from the world of being in the creative industries, and also from running a business as a counselor. It is an odd transition. And so the reason that transition happened was because I help people tell their stories. That's kind of what I do. And I love to find out why do we do things? And wedding photography was kind of the best way to earn money as a photographer at that time for me. And so as I had finished my bachelor's degree and was working on my master's degree, I shot weddings to help pay for my graduate school. And as I was doing that transition, it just became great for me to concentrate on one profession in addition to working at Full Sail as a full-time instructor. And so the counseling really goes well with what I do here, teaching this class. And so that's a little bit about me. All right. So week 3, we're going to be talking about motivation, and we're going to talk about gamification and grit. We're going to do a little bit of conflict management. So those are the main topics. So the first thing we're going to talk about is motivation. And we get a lot of our motivation content in this course from this guy, Dan Pink, and he wrote a book called A Whole New Mind. And the main focus of his thing was that software is replacing left brain and sequential logical work. And so the main thing now is engaging the right hemisphere of the brain. And so this is where all of the creative type stuff is. Artistry and empathy and inventiveness, big picture thinking, all of the things that are creative instead of linear type stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about how this creative type stuff is a really big deal because it's a totally different workflow than what you would be doing for like task type things. And so we're going to funnel into 2 main kinds of motivation. So what is motivation? Motivation is a force or an influence that causes somebody to do something. It's why do we do the things we do? And so as we look at motivation, what we're going to do is we're going to see that motivation comes in 2 different forms. Hello, Raymond. You have not missed anything important yet other than me introducing myself. Hello, my name is Billy. So 2 kinds of motivation are intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Cool? So we're going to break these down one at a time. We're going to see what the heck they are. So the first is intrinsic motivation. And so this is doing an activity because you enjoy it for its inherent satisfaction or enjoyment instead of for some external consequence or like a reward. So this is why we do things for their own sake. If you think back to week 1 in the qualities of play, play is like apparently purposeless. You do it because you're drawn to it. You have inherent attraction. And so inherent attraction and apparently purposeless really kind of fall into the intrinsic motivation side. When you do things because you enjoy it, you don't need somebody to pay you for it or reward you for it. You do it because you like it. These are intrinsic from inside of you kinds of motivation. So what are some things that you guys do just because you love it? What are some intrinsic motivation things that you guys can think of? What kind of stuff do you do that you don't have to get paid for? Gardening, making beats, reading, yeah, cool. Drawing, yeah, nice. Cooking, there you go, Lisa, photography. Watching TV, playing with your kids, video games, cooking, drawing, woodworking, nice. Making 3D renders and gaming, yep. Yeah, these are the things we do because they're fun. These are things you would do even if, somebody didn't say you should be doing them, right? So that's the first kind of motivation, stuff that comes from inside of us. And so then obviously the other kind is the motivation that you do want to get paid for. This is extrinsic motivation. And this is doing something because it leads to a separate reward. Work, you nailed it. Yep. So all of the things that you do because you want some sort of incentive to do them, you want somebody to pay you in some form, those are extrinsic motivation. And so you guys really kind of hit it already with work, school. Can it be both? Yes, absolutely, Melvin. It can be both. Like, I love photography, but at the same time, if I'm doing wedding photography, I want to get paid for it because it's a lot of liability. And if I'm going to face that much liability, there needs to be a reward of some form in order for me to feel like it's worth me doing it. Like my 8-year-old that just pulled out a tooth. He wanted money. He wanted money like his younger brother. Yep. My daughter is trying not to pull out her tooth because she hates pulling out her teeth. All right. So what keeps you reaching for your goals? Think about the goals that you have. And there's not like a wrong answer here. What are the things that keep you, achieving your goals? And is it intrinsic or extrinsic motivation that does it? Priscilla says insecurities. Yeah, that I can totally relate to that. Yeah. Monica, children. Gisela, my kids. Greg says it's both kinds of motivation. Yeah. Yeah. Wanting to see the outcome. Yeah. School and health. So what you'll kind of notice is it's personal, and a lot of times it's situational, depending on what is going on in your life currently. You could totally be reaching for your goals with things that are, fun. But then if you're at a different point in your life where you have things that are really on your to-do list, it might be extrinsic rewards that keep you reaching for your goals. And so it really kind of comes down to what's going on currently. Like, it's totally appropriate for you to have times in your life where you are in more of a leisure kind of mode, or like self-improvement, exploration kind of stuff. Like, you don't have a necessary, set of things that you have to accomplish. You're trying to find out what am I interested in? And it's totally okay for you to be doing intrinsic kind of things because you enjoy them instead of because you have to do them kinds of things. But then there may be a time whenever it's crunch time and you got to get stuff done. Maybe it's Sunday night at 11 o'clock and you got to get your discussion board finished. That would be an extrinsic motivator to be done. And so you might be like, I'm going to go do whatever the heck I want for the next 2 hours after I finish this 1 hour of work for school, right? And that would be an extrinsic motivator. Maybe it's getting through some of these meetings. There you go. No comment. Especially from the guy driving the meeting. All right. So here's what Dan Pink came up with. Said, we know that 20th century stuff works, but in narrow circumstances. And so the carrot and the stick reward often destroys creativity. And the secret to high performance is typically judged to be more creative. Like, if you do commissioned artwork, chances are it's not going to be quite as creative as your things you do for yourself. And so if you do artwork for somebody else and they're doing like, I'll give you $500 to do this, 10-hour creative art project. If they offer to give you more, is it going to be better or worse? What happens is sometimes having it be more money actually restricts your ability to be creative. And that's a weird thing that we're going to wrap our heads around once we go through some of this content. So what happens is the work that you do for yourself might be, in fact, better than the work you do for pay for somebody else. And that's kind of a blanket statement, and it's not necessarily universal. It's, stick with me, we'll flesh it out. So how do you stay motivated to be creative when you also want to get paid for your work, right? So what we come into is this thing called the candle problem. And so this is in our reading material. Just the way that I'm sitting. So here's this candle problem thing. It's basically an experiment where there were two groups of people. And so the first group of people were told, we want you to help science. We want you to help us move science forward in this little experiment. And so they were given a candle, a book of matches, and a box of thumbtacks. And they said, we want to see how quickly you can elevate this candle so that it does not drip wax on the floor. How can you elevate the candle and not drip wax? And so the other group, they said, hey, we want you to help us out. We want you to compete with another group. And whoever gets the fastest time on elevating this candle so that the wax doesn't drip on the floor, whoever does it the quickest gets a $25 reward. And so you would think the group that was going to get a reward would be super motivated to finish the fastest, right? So who do you think won? The one who was doing it to just help science, or the one who was trying to compete for the quickest so that they could get the reward? Which group do you guys think won? The one for science. The second one, science. People with reward. Oh, it looks like an even split. Yeah, Christopher. So yeah, what happened was the group who was just doing it to help science beat the snot out of the other group. Even though the other group was, facing the opportunity to get paid to do it the quickest, they actually got stuck. And they got beat by the group who was just doing it for science. And so the reason why they got stuck was this idea called functional fixedness. And so what happened was, whenever the experiment played out, the group who was just doing it for science realized that the box holding the thumbtacks wasn't just a thumbtack holder, but it could be a platform for the candle. And so functional fixedness makes that box of thumbtacks only be a box to hold thumbtacks. The idea that the box could be something different was not part of their thought process, because they figured this is already doing what it's supposed to be doing by holding the thumbtacks. But the group that was there, without the stress of the reward, was able to come up with the idea that they could use that box of thumbtacks as a platform to hold the candle. And so they thumbtacked the box to the wall and put the candle, inside the box. And then they were able to use the matches to light the candle. But the group who was, thinking about getting paid were so hung up on the reward that they could not get that creative solution for themselves as quickly as the other group did. And so what happens is the power of incentives is really great when you are trying to do routine, boring tasks. The rewards create stress for creative thinking, though. It was tunnel vision. I think it was Christopher that said the stress of the reward is what narrowed their focus, and that's true. So the possibility of what that thumbtack box was going to be used for was not available to them as quickly. And so whenever you're doing things that are routine, like factory work, or things that you don't have to use creative solutions for, things you can do over and over and over again, those rewards are good. And so with me, like with wedding photography, I had a shot list. And so I found ways to make it so that what I was having to do did not require me to be creative. It required me to be, proficient at doing the same kinds of shots, but then that allowed me to be creative in the other times when I needed to be. And so having that opportunity to narrow my focus for the long haul made it so that I could be more creative when I needed to be. But like for this purpose, just know that the rewards give you creative block. They're very good to have rewards for things that you're doing over and over and over again. And so that's when rewards do increase productivity. It's when things are routine. Cool. So that is the candle problem. And the main thing here is that it's not all about the money. Money is a good thing, but it's not the main thing for being creative. Cool. So we've been through intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. We've been through the candle problem. Next, we're going to look at two theories for motivation that are, there are two very similar ways to view how motivation works. And so the first one we have is Dan Pink's model. And Dan Pink's model is on autonomy, mastery, and purpose. We're going to go through these real quick. Yeah, money can have the opposite effect on me. It can be a burden to perform, whereas if I'm doing it for myself, I feel much more free to brainstorm and try something crazy. Yeah, totally true. So let's look at these three parts for Dan Pink's motivation. The first one is mastery. Mastery is just getting better at stuff. In order to be motivated, you want to feel like what you're doing, you're good at. You want to make sure that if you're, practicing, that you get better at stuff. And the better you get at it, the more you become, a master of whatever the task is. But it's a pain. It demands grit and effort and practice. Yesterday, my daughter was having a very hard time because she missed a couple of fish while she was fishing, and she was very disappointed. And she started to cry. And so we walked away from the river for a few minutes and we talked about, you don't just start as a professional at something, and you have to miss a whole lot of fish before you become a fisherwoman. Yeah, everybody fails. That's why they call it fishing and not catching. That's right. And so the second part is purpose. Humans, by nature, seek a purpose or a higher cause than ourselves. And this purpose is more than self-interest. It's the idea that what we do matters to people other than ourselves. We want to feel like the stuff that we do matters to other people. And so purpose is the second part. I think we missed autonomy, though. Autonomy was the very first part. This is our desire to be self-directed. Being able to do what it is you want to do. And so you being in charge of what it is you're trying to do makes you feel like it's your thing, you know? And so autonomy, mastery, and purpose, all three of these things together are Dan Pink's theory for motivation. So we're going to look at something else, this second theory, and it's called the self-determination theory. And this is more of a psychology proper model. It's from the primary needs of psychology theory. And so it's autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And so what do you guys notice when you look at these two things? When you look at these two models, what do you notice? Do they look very different? Right, 1 and 2 are the same. Yep, they're virtually the same. Yeah. People want to be independent, yeah. So yeah, number 1 is the same in both models. Number 2 is awfully similar. Competence and mastery are like almost synonyms. Sorry, Andrew, didn't give you enough time to write it. Competence and mastery are like the same idea. But then relatedness and purpose, those are kind of different, aren't they? But then when we go look at purpose, the idea that what we do matters to people other than ourselves. And then we go back and look at purpose, and relatedness is like the same dadgum thing. So we have two theories here that are basically saying the same thing. And so one of the things that I've noticed is if you have two theories by two different people that basically say the same things with different words, they're probably pointing to something that is real, you know? And so you have corroborative evidence here that there's a thing that these folks have all figured out, and they've just labeled it uniquely, but not differently. So for the self-determination theory, the premise is that people are geared towards growth and mastering challenges, which forms who they are and how they understand themselves. So here's a question. Do autonomy, competence, and relatedness exist in play? Most definitely. Think about like the video games that are current today. A lot of them are like a whole bunch of people playing the same thing, you know? And you want to be good at it. And you want to be able to do what's important to you in it, you know? So it's definitely part of play. And so I don't think we need to determine that, you know, this is the reason why people play, but it's certainly good evidence to go along with it. One of the things I want to encourage you to think about is how do you create this type of environment? How do you create an environment where all of this stuff exists? How do you create an environment where people are able to hang out together, or able to work together or collaborate, where they're able to demonstrate that they know what they're doing in accomplishing a goal, and they get to choose, you know, how to be involved in it, you know? And so you could certainly make an argument that when you have places that value compassion, um, it's a whole lot better than when you have a place that's focusing on control and like micromanaging, you know? when you believe that people are able to go conquer the world for you, it's a whole lot more fun than having a workplace that's about super big oversight. So has Dan Pink persuaded you about the gap between what science knows and what organizations do? Do you agree or disagree? Like, do you believe, have you been convinced about the whole candle problem thing where the money actually made it worse? And then think about someone in your life who is intrinsically motivated. And how did you figure that out? Think about somebody who's extrinsically motivated. What do you think about that situation? You know, people who are all about money are usually not much fun to be around. Yeah. Think about your last week and what were you motivated about last week? Was it intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation? Like what is your current situation? You know, are you doing things because you enjoy them, or are you doing things because you have to? Cool. All right, so that is the motivation stuff. Let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna stop sharing this one. Drop this one down. All right, can you guys see the grit and gamification slides now? Yeah, cool. All right. So grab something to write with, or pull up a blank document or something. Have you ever heard of the sandbox psychology test? I have not heard of the sandbox psychology test. There is sand tray therapy though. What's the sandbox psychology test? That sounds good, Andrew. So write this down. When have you ever done something difficult? When have you completed something that you thought was really more difficult than anything you've ever done? When have you brought about a victory from what was almost a defeat? When have you done difficult things? Just kind of take a little bit of time to think about that. Like, what's been the most difficult thing that you've done? Like for me, I haven't really shared this with you guys yet, but like here I am teaching your class in psychology at Full Sail. This is a college class. I was suspended twice from college for bad grades. I almost failed out of college twice. And so me earning my degree was where I brought about success from what was almost a defeat. So how about you? What's something that you've done that's been really difficult? It doesn't have to be as big as what I just said, you know? And as you're thinking about it, I want us to go watch a video. That sounds suspicious. Yeah, well, the good news is I made straight A's in graduate school. But yeah, Like that's really how life is, you know. For me, as a counselor, um, I work with people on the process, you know. Um, and so, you know, the theme of my career is you can be an expert in the things that you're, you know, terrible at. I also used to stutter until I was in my 20s, and I talk for a living now. I married a speech therapist. I have a speech therapy business. And so this whole idea that we're going to get into with grit is tied into this. I'm going to give you guys a video. I'm going to put it in the chat box. Um, if I show it on the screen, when I go try to make a YouTube video out of this session, it'll give me a naughty message and it won't let me have a copyright thing here. So I'm going to put it in the chat box. You guys go watch this video, and when you're finished with the video, just tell me that you're done, and that'll let me know when you're done. Cool? I'm gonna mute my microphone for a minute. All right, looks like you guys are finishing up. Yes? All right. I love that video. So what is grit? Grit is courage and resolve, strength of character, courage, bravery, pluck, mettle, backbone, strength of character. So in that video, you know, a whole lot of that tied into the motivation stuff that we just, you know, went through, where like every day is the same. How do you set your, you know, goals to be able to keep doing the things that are monotonous? And do you have like your motivation by intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. And then what the main character for The Office was doing was like, he was really having a hard time pushing through, it's like, it's just overwhelming because he's so micromanaged and unappreciated. And so we have to develop some strength of character in order to, stay committed for the long-term stuff. I see you guys are annotating on my screen. So grit is perseverance and passion for long-term goals. It's the tendency to sustain interest and effort towards achieving those goals. Right? And so this is what I was talking about with my daughter yesterday when she was having a hard time missing fish. If you want to get good at fishing, you got to like keep at it. You have to deal with those, misses a little bit so that you can sustain interest towards accomplishing the goal of being awesome at fishing. But you don't just start awesome at fishing because the fish get a vote. They don't want you to catch them. So here are some examples of grit. Finishing what you begin, staying committed to your goals, working hard even after experiencing failure or when you feel like quitting, and sticking with a project, activity, or sport for more than a few weeks. These are great examples. And I think the one that sticks out to me the most is working hard even after experiencing failure or when you feel like quitting. So I gave you my example about my daughter and fishing. What about you guys? I gave you my example about almost failing college. See, you guys had a whole lot of similar stories about overcoming educational challenges, and that's awesome. I think that's one of the things that I really love about Full Sail is it gives people the opportunity to study the things that are important to them. And sometimes it's to get that better start. What else do you guys have as examples? Think about those things you were writing down. Oh, Christopher, you haven't finished anything you've ever started. Not even dinner? Parenting. There you go. A lot of unfinished books. There you go, Paris. Nearly failing high school. Nearly failing, but not. Finishing art projects. Cool. Finishing first class. Yeah, nice. Skydiving. Oh my goodness. Nice. So how can you develop grit? You have to develop this other thing called a growth mindset. I see you guys are sharing some great stories on the chat box. Cool. Practice optimism. Find your passion in life and pursue it. Know how to quit responsibly. These are good ways that you can develop grit. We're going to talk about a growth mindset in one of these slides coming up. What is a growth mindset? In the growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point. This view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. That was from Carol Dweck. So a growth mindset is like you have the ability to like grow and do stuff. You can develop your abilities through dedication and hard work. My daughter has this thing where she thinks she's just supposed to be perfect at everything she tries once. That's what that's what talented children have to deal with. When you have, I don't know, like I'm sure a lot of you guys are great at the things that you do. And when you try to do things, sometimes those things just come out great. Sometimes you have to practice at things. And so that practicing and growing and getting better at stuff is a growth mindset. Let's go do another video real quick. I'm going to throw this up in the chat box for you. Go watch this one. I love this video. It's really just a commercial. Go watch this one. Let me know when you're done. All right, looks like you guys are finishing that. I love that. It's one of my favorites. I hate being micromanaged too. And I think that is like the cool part about teaching this class and having the job where I work in this class. We very much practice what we teach here. And I get to have a lot of autonomy in doing what we do. And it's great. And you guys have the ability when you're, finished with college to go out and make businesses, make companies where you are able to encourage people to be autonomous and go conquer the world for you. And when you empower somebody to go conquer the world for you, they see that you trust them and you give them the space to do it. Dude, you can go find the people who will go conquer the world for you, and they will do it. All right. So here are some ways to develop a growth mindset. View challenges as opportunities, replace the word failing with learning. And this one is kind of this is different. Don't internalize your mistakes. What they're saying is don't like universalize your mistakes. Don't judge yourself completely off of one little bit of evidence. Yeah, like don't say I'm a failure at everything because I failed at one thing. That little failure at one thing is not a fair measurement of your person as a whole. Yeah, like Joseph, don't blame yourself. It's totally along the lines of don't blame yourself. And so a growth mindset is I'm not supposed to be perfect. I'm supposed to be growing. Perfection is an awfully difficult first step or second step or third step. Yeah, Crystal, I totally agree. I mean, when you're in a season where things are not looking good, sometimes we universalize everything about one bit of evidence. We take one dot and we complete the whole picture with that one dot. And that's just not fair to any of us to do that to ourselves. And so the growth mindset for me is encouragement to step away from that ledge, because I do this too. So there we go. Other things you can do: portray criticism as positive, value the process over the end result, make a new goal for every goal accomplished, and think of your brain as a muscle. I can tell you, as a photographer, I see a lot of criticism, like, photographers submit their work for critique. And it's difficult to have your work critiqued because not everybody critiques work well. Sometimes they say you're a failure because this work could use improvement. And that's never fair. That's not criticism, or that criticism is not constructive. All right. How else can you get gritty? Practice optimism, find your passion in life and pursue it, and know how to quit responsibly. So I mentioned I do counseling, and I used to do photography professionally. And so I quit photography in order to do my counseling, because I already had a full-time job doing my Full Sail stuff. And so this is my main thing in life, is doing my Full Sail teaching. And so I have a little bit of time left over to improve myself as a counselor. Yes, Tamika, you can totally hang around later after class is over. So I had to figure out, how do I quit responsibly with this photography thing, because I love it and I have clients. And so quitting responsibly was, I had to go, finish those last several jobs. And so I didn't just bail out on my last 3 contracts. I honored my last 3 contracts and did those photography jobs. And so that's how you quit responsibly. And it required me to, have a little bit of grit to do that. Cool. All right. So we're going to go into gamification here a little bit. So gamification is applying elements of games to other areas of life, like the workplace, advertising, and marketing. And so gamification is using game concepts in non-game settings. And so what we're talking about is these are gamification tools. And so there's competition and points and levels and badges and all sorts of things. And so these are things we do to increase engagement. See, some of you guys have a love-hate relationship with gamification. I do as well. Gamification boosts morale, raises productivity, increases creativity, fosters teamwork, optimizes work quality, reinforces desired behavior, and promotes engagement. So when you take all of these things together, what do you guys think about gamification? Do you think gamification is intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation? If I'm trying to promote engagement through gamification, are those gamification mechanics intrinsic or extrinsic motivators? Here are some of the mechanics of gamification. Are these things intrinsic or extrinsic? See, some of you are saying intrinsic and some of you are saying extrinsic. I think someone said it could be both. So when I'm asking this question, I'm literally talking about the game mechanics. Are badges intrinsic or extrinsic? Are points intrinsic or extrinsic? Are leaderboards intrinsic or extrinsic? Amy, yes. So if I give you a badge, does that badge come from inside of you, or does it come from outside of you as a reward? Yeah, Paris. If I give you points, do those points come from inside of you, or do they come from me and I'm rewarding you with them? Clearly you earned them, but they're coming from me. Yes, it comes from you, but my motivation and grit got me them. So the motivation and grit, the motivation is the motivation is extrinsic if you're doing it for the reward. If you're doing it because you would do it regardless, then it's intrinsic. But if I'm adding in badges and levels and points, I am challenging you to engage with my system, and I'm giving you the payoff to do it. I am challenging you to increase your engagement with the game that I create, even if it's real life. And I am manipulating you to be further involved. In fact, if you go away, I might give you points to come back. And if you do, then you have been extrinsically motivated. Amy, yeah, so what if you would do it regardless, but you put in just a bit more effort because of the reward? Could you classify it as both? It really comes down to, are you doing it because of the chemical affirmation that you get for earning the reward, or are you doing it because you enjoy it? I guess, would you do it regardless of whether or not there was a reward? Yes, Christopher. It's extrinsic because it comes from external rewards. And so what I'm putting out here is that all of these gamification mechanics, their intention is to get you to be engaged by rewarding you for engaging with it. And so that is the essence of extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is I sit and play with my kids because I love them, not because I get points, you know? But, there's not like a badge or a level that I get for spending 15 more minutes with my kids. I do it because something inside of me says, I want to spend this time with my kids because I love them. And that comes from me, not from the external reward. Make sense? This is like one of those things that it's good to think about. Right? Like right now I'm playing a game that it's all game mechanics. And the more I play it, the more I realize, oh my gosh, these jerks are manipulating me. And I love it for some reason. And I keep coming back for more. It's because of the dopamine hit you get from the reward. So here's just a little example. Cashiers can remove a hanger in 5.2 seconds. Can you do it faster? please remove your hangers and leave them here, right? And so they're challenging you to engage with their system here of not stealing their hangers. They want you to not steal their hangers. And the best way that they can do that is to use their poor cashiers. They volunteer their cashiers to come up with this statistic that they can do it in 5.2 seconds. Can you do it faster? And so by challenging you to do it faster than them, they have made it so you don't take their hangers home. You have been manipulated to not steal their hangers. And then you felt good about it because you did it faster than their cashiers, or slower, and you still feel good. Here's Firehouse subs. Buy 9 combos and your 10th medium combo is free. And so each time you get a combo, you punch a sticker, right? You punch a fire hydrant. And when you buy 9 combos, you buy 9 sandwiches, and then you get a 10th one free. They just took your like 1 or 2 sandwiches all the way up to 9, so because you might get one free. And so they've already factored in the amount of, profit margin. And so they know they got to get you to 8 in order to make a profit. And so they get you to 8, and then they get you to 9. And so they make their profit, and then they give you a free one. And then by that time, you are so hooked on Firehouse, you got to come back every day or every week. And they have manipulated you. It is totally worth it. Same with coffee stands. Yep. So here's a leaderboard example. So it's just breaking down the statistics. Calories burned, the rankage based off of how many calories were burned. But it helps you see where you fall in line with other people too. It gives you an understanding of where you fit in based off of the activity that you've done. And that's cool. I mean, I'm not down on it. It's just, it's not motivation from you, it's motivation to you, which you could also read as some form of manipulation, even though it might feel good. Sometimes it feels great to be manipulated. There's another leaderboard. There's a website called The Fun Theory. And it's, it's a cool thing to be able to, engage with people through fun. So they made the stairs into a piano, and people totally took the piano stairs instead of the escalator. And so while the escalator could have been easier, it was more fun to take the stairs because of the piano. And that's cool. Go check out The Fun Theory. I believe there are links to it in our reading also. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this one real quick. We'll share our conflict management. It's our last couple of little slides here. All right. Last little video real quick. Have you guys go watch this. Let me know when you're done. All right, looks like you guys are finishing up. So we're going to look real quick at conflict management styles. So conflict can be very costly to a company. It's associated with emotional fatigue, absenteeism, turnover, feelings of purposelessness. So there's this idea in projection. It's interesting, as a counselor, I have learned to use projection, and it's kind of interesting. What people by our nature do, and I do it too. I'm not saying that I'm not being manipulative that I know of. But when people have a problem, what they tend to do is put you in the light of how they want you to be, so they can blame you for being that. And so whenever you say to somebody, I don't like it, whenever you make me feel that way, the projection thing is going to be like, you always make me out to be the bad guy. Well, that's projection because I don't always make you out to be the bad guy. I can't make you always something. I can't ascribe eternal qualities to you, no matter how hard I try. And so I can't make you anything. And so projection is putting someone else in the light that you would like them to be in, or putting them in the role that you want them to be in order to have a valid thing to complain about with them. And so this is what happens in conflict. We see things in themes. And so whenever we hear a message, we're going to put that message into several different themes that are like our favorites. And we kind of see the world through those favorite themes. And we'll try to funnel people into those because those are the conversations we're used to having. And those are the ones that we think we can win the easiest because those are the ones we're most practiced in. And so what I have noticed is people try to turn me into a bully because my job is to help them with their problems. And so when I try to help people with their problems, sometimes people want to lash out whenever you get close to their problems. And when you get close to somebody's problem and you start to identify it, they're probably going to attack you verbally, at least. And so the way that they do that is to basically say that you're the bully. And so that's projection. It can be a lot of other ways too. Sometimes people are victims and they want to, make themselves your victim. And so they navigate conversations in order to put you in that bully way so that they can stay in the victim way. And if you go into our podcasts, this is kind of what I went into. It's called the drama triangle. And so the drama triangle works off of projection. But it is part of how we do conflict, because what we want to do is make the other person responsible, not us. And so anything that we can do to make the other person responsible for whatever this lesson is I'm trying to avoid is what it is. Yes, no matter how perfect you can be, there will always be someone to say you are the oppressor. And so here's what we do. This is a different model than, in the anxiety podcast, but these are our conflict management styles. So the first one is competing, and this is assertive and uncooperative. This is the my way or the highway conflict management. And you can see there's shark in there about to chomp down on a fish tail, right? So this is conflict management by aggression. You're very assertive and you are going to get your way done by making everybody else cooperate with you. Christopher, you're always the bad guy in someone's story. Yep. The accommodating conflict management style is unassertive and cooperative. This is the go along to get along. So this person kind of sits back, they cooperate. And so most of the ways that they manage the conflict is by doing whatever is required to go along with the group. So the difficulty here is this person may not be advocating for what it is they want, they're just cooperating. Fine, whatever you want to do is fine. Whatever you want to do is fine. Let's just do whatever you want to do. In order to avoid that conflict, they're going to be cooperative. And that cooperation may not seem enthusiastic. Next is the compromising. And so this one is moderate in both. They're moderate in assertiveness and moderate in cooperativeness. And so this could be a helpful, this is a little bit more positive direction because they're advocating for themselves some and they're cooperating some. And so you could do well if you had several people in this situation because they're going to negotiate a compromise at some point. Next, we have the avoiding. And so this is unassertive and uncooperative. This is the invisible group member. This is the person that does not contribute. They're avoiding, they're avoiding speaking up and they're avoiding participating. And so this person is really kind of not helpful at all. And so typically what happens is if you've got a couple of folks who are, really effective, you might have some people fall into this because that assertive and cooperative pattern among some of the members could be very intimidating for somebody like this. And so if there's somewhere between, being moderately cooperative and moderately assertive, these type of folks could fall in the background and look like they are not participating. The collaborating conflict management style is both assertive and cooperative. So this is the person who is involved in advocating for themselves and participating by cooperating. And so this is the owl. So this is the good one. This is the one you want to be. And I think we should be like this. This is how we should strive to be in life anyway. We should strive to be advocating for our opinions and being cooperative, And I will tell you, the more you develop your grit and your growth mindset, the more assertive and cooperative you are going to be. So I saw some of you guys were sharing some of your views on your conflict management style. So think about your conflict management style. Which one do you guys identify with the most? And think about what are the strengths of your style? What are the limitations of your style? Do you value the other styles? And if you do, what do you value about them? What would happen if you projected your style onto that group? What if you took your shark and acted out as a shark? What if you were uncompromising and very assertive in your group? Joseph, yeah, I use all of them except avoiding, depending on who I'm dealing with. And that is totally right on the money, because I do believe it is very situational. Typically, the dynamics of the group determine how we do these conflict management styles, because you'll have 2 or 3 that you are able to call upon the most. And, depending on the dynamics of the group, you're going to experiment with how do you get received when you take a chance to advocate for yourself. Do they take that or do they shut you down? And if they shut you down, you might draw back, and that's a natural reaction. So there's not a wrong answer here. It's just think about what are your strengths and weaknesses. And then real quick, we'll go through group flow. So you guys remember flow from last week. And so a group can hit a flow too. In order to hit flow, you've got to have a clear collective goal. You have to have a shared mission. You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to keep your conversations moving forward. You have to engage in complete concentration, blocking out distractions. You know, if you're a group that is easily distracted, you know, going out to like an arcade, going out to a restaurant, going out to, you know, a place with lots of extra stimulation may not be the best way to hit a flow state because you have to be focused. Manage the control paradox. This is individual control versus deferring to the emergent flow of the group. We talked about how the dynamics are going to be determining how you fit in. And so in order for your group to hit flow, you've got to manage that difference between one person taking over or you being responsible for everything and the group having their emergent way that they go through their tasks. Learn to blend egos, like a jazz session. Equal participation. You want to minimize that turtle, the one that's not going to participate or say anything. You want to encourage those people to step out a little bit, you know, emerge from their shell. Familiarity breeds contentment. The more you guys work together as a group, the more you are going to be able to work out how flow goes. Communicate a lot and harness the group's potential and fear of failure. Yes, ask their opinion. So that's the group flow. All right. Here we go. I believe that is all of those are all of the slides for the reading. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to bring up the platform. Let's take a look at week 3 together. All righty. So tonight, the call to play is due. As usual, this is just this is a thing where you can go fill in these answers. They are totally about you. There's not like a wrong answer. The only wrong answers are the ones you don't give. Here are the readings. And then we're going to look at our discussion. There's a thing I want to show you guys. I've had a couple of students ask if I could show them the infographic because they finished their call to play and they can no longer access the infographic. And so you can access the quest document, the infographic, by clicking on the orange here in the directions. Can you guys see that? I'm hovering over the orange here. I'm going to click here, and it's going to take me to the infographic with the quests. Cool? So let's go through these things. Motivated to grow is quest number 1. Think of a good habit that you would like to develop over the course of the next month, including how often you would like to engage in this habit. And so each one of these quests has a creative file called a deliverable. And so it's a little project. And so the deliverable for quest 1 is a mind map. And it can be something you complete through a website or hand-drawn. You want to put your good habit in the center, and in your branches include the benefits of pursuing this habit, the actions you will need to take to achieve your goal, and how you'd like a reward. And so what I want you to notice is a mind map is basically like brainstorming. So you're going to draw a little circle and draw in your circle your habit you want to develop, a good habit you want to develop, right? And so for me, I want to take more pictures, right? So I'm going to take pictures and draw a circle around it. And then I'm going to map out how to take more pictures. And so I'm going to draw lines out. And then what am I going to have to do to accomplish that? You know? So to take more pictures, I need to, maybe for me, I take my camera out on walks. So I'm going to draw a circle around, you know, take walks, and then draw a line from both circles together. And then next, it's going to be like, spend more time with my kids because they're the people that I photograph now. So I, you know, put kids down on my page and circle it and draw a line from kids back down to take pictures. And so the next thing I might do is spend time with my wife, right? And so I'm going to circle that and draw it back to take more pictures. And so as I now have several circles all pointing back to take more pictures, then I can make more connections and circles on those other things. And so eventually you end up with this big document full of concepts with circles around them. And so you can totally draw that by hand, or you can come here to bubble.us and you can make your own mind map. And you kind of see, here's how they look. And this will do it for you. You just write down your ideas and it'll draw the circles for you. And so I got to that by coming back to the directions. And I did 1A, if choosing quest 1, because that's where we just were, check out bubble.us and you can do your mind maps there. Cool? So that's quest 1. Quest 2 is the weekly plan, and this was the same one we had for the other 2 weeks. Quest 2 is going to be an option all month. And if you're doing quest 2, down here you will see our work, play, fit, push plan. You're going to come here, grab that, fill this thing in. And be sure to fill in 3 items each day for work, 1 item each day for play, fit, and push. And we do not grade you on like, did you finish all of your things? We grade you on, did you identify things that you want to do? We don't grade you on whether or not you accomplished all of your goals. We want you to be able to identify things that you would like to do, not whether or not you actually get them all done. Quest 3. How are we doing so far? You guys with me? Good. Good. All right. Quest 3. Create a user guide by reflecting on your motivation, conflict resolution style, and ways that you can develop or that you can help a team succeed. The creative deliverable here is a poster with an image of you that includes what motivates you, your personal motto, your grit score, how you handle conflict, and 1 or more ways you can help a team succeed. Your grit score, you can find that in the reading. You will see, I believe there is a grit test questionnaire that you can do. Yep, reading 3. So for quest 3, you're going to make a poster, and it's going to be all about you. A picture of you, what motivates you, your motto, your grit score, how you handle conflict, and 1 or more ways you can help a team succeed. And so you could take a picture of that poster and upload that picture. Here's some ways to get inspired for it. Let's see what we have here. Oh, here's a user guide to me thingy. All sorts of stuff that you can do. There's a strength finder questionnaire, the Myers-Briggs. You can do the Myers-Briggs. That's an awesome thing. This just goes through and helps you come up with how to do all about you. Cool? Do you have to include a picture of yourself? I believe that is one of the requirements. Create a poster with an image of yourself. That includes what motivates you. So yeah, what I would do is like, hard pass, huh? I'm going to say that probably the easiest way to do this for those who want to is to create a poster on paper and like attach stuff to that poster, and then take a picture of that poster with like your phone, and then upload that image to the platform. And I think that's probably the easier way to do it. There are other ways to do it too. And this is definitely a good thing to do for your portfolio. Yep. Can it be entirely digital? Absolutely. As long as you turn in a document that's got those things in it, a document with a picture of you and all of those other things, with your motto and your grit score and conflict resolution and how you can help a team succeed, it can totally be digital. You could put it into a slide, you could put it into a PDF. Quest 4. Recruit one or more of your classmates and play a game your whole team can participate in together. And there is a deliverable here where you're going to make a collage, and you're going to create avatars as another option, showcasing your team. And so I want you to go back to the directions on this, because you'll see, if choosing Quest 4, click here. Now watch this. When I click on that, it brings me to a whole thing here where you can meet up with all of your other folks taking this course, and you can go find some folks to play a game with, and you can meet online and do it. How many photos for Quest 4? You're making one collage. The collage has like, so you've got 4 people doing this with you probably, right? One or more of your classmates. So let's say there's 3 of you. Your collage is going to be like, the other 2 people send you their avatar, and you put their avatar on there. And so your deliverable is a document that's got your 3 avatars together. Yeah, and each of you can submit the same file. So if you do a collage, the collage could be, images of the game. That's totally fine too. What you're trying to do here is document the fact that you played a game with other people, and any way that you are able to showcase that you played said game with said people is going to work out. Is that clear for you guys? I want to make sure that I don't end up muddying things. The idea here is to get it clearer, not less clear. So Professor Washington's class has a Discord set up for Quest 4 and 5. Cool. That's great. Go Terrence. That's good. Quest 5 is Pep Talk. Recruit a few of your classmates and create a pep talk video or podcast giving tips to future students starting Full Sail. So you're going to submit a video or a podcast, and each of you can submit the same video or podcast. And so the creative deliverable file here is a video or a podcast. So you're just basically giving encouragement to future students. And you can go listen to the podcasts that we have done if you need ideas for how podcasts should work, but I'm sure you guys have listened to a lot of podcasts. How long does it have to be? And how many points do we have to provide? It does not indicate how long it needs to be, so I don't want to watch a 30-minute podcast, I will tell you. So I would say a couple of minutes is probably good, you know, under 10, more like 5. And, you know, the main thing here is whatever works for you, we are totally okay if you do submit one that is way too long. We're going to figure out that you have put in way more work than the minimum if you do something that is too much. And that's not going to be a problem. Okay, I'm going to go click back to the directions. If you guys feel like you understand the quests, can we work with any students in this current Zoom session? Yeah, totally. So I want to give you guys Billy's hints for doing well. So stick with me on this. I'm going to give you how I grade, and I think this is the best way to make it so that you know. On this set of directions, you have 3 main questions, 2, 3, and 4. Which 2 quests did you choose? And then describe each experience, okay? We want a paragraph for each of these 3 answers. In your initial post, respond to the prompts below. Each written response must be at least a paragraph. So each answer needs to be a paragraph long, okay? So number 2 is not just which quests did you choose. There's describe each experience. So I chose quest 2 and 3. Describe your experience. In quest 2 and 3, here's how it went. And that needs to be a paragraph, okay? If you want to earn full credit, don't just say, I did quests 2 and 3. We want you to describe your experience because we're asking you to write a paragraph for this. And then most important in our course is question number 3. We want you to identify, define, and apply 2 concepts. And if you look, we've got some ideas here for you. We covered these today. Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, self-determination theory, growth mindset. These are the types of things we're asking you to identify, define, and apply. So question number 3 is worth 20 points. And if you don't answer question number 3, you're also not meeting the minimum requirements. And so you're going to miss more points than just the 20. So be sure to identify, define, and apply 2 concepts for question number 3. 1 concept per quest. So what happens is whenever you do one concept per quest, it's totally fine to do that, but we want you to put it into question 3, because what happens is people start to number these things differently and they end up with 2 paragraphs instead of 3. And so be sure to answer question 2 the way that it's asked, and then question 3 the way that it's asked, because some students end up doing 2 paragraphs. Some students end up skipping question 3 altogether. And it's cool if you end up doing 4, that's great. But you do not have to do 2 concepts per quest. We just want 2 concepts for your question number 3. 2 concepts for the whole week. And then question number 4 is, how do you use these quests to motivate yourself personally, professionally, or academically in the future? And so that's a full paragraph as well. And then you add in your quest deliverable files in the box. So a good initial post is 3 paragraphs, 2 concepts, and then your creative files. It is totally fine if you do 2 for each quest. That's great. And then here's another thing. You have 2 response posts that you need to do, and each of those response posts needs to be 5 or 6 sentences each. I'm getting a lot of folks who are only writing 1 or 2 sentences for their responses. and you can't earn full credit with 1 or 2 sentences for a response post. We need you to write 5 sentences per response for at least 2 of those. And hopefully you are aware. If you are not yet aware, if let's say you missed the Thursday deadline for the initial post. This happens sometimes, and we want you to be able to have the opportunity to make those points up. And so if you miss the Thursday deadline, you can make 3 response posts instead of 2, and we will give you back those 10 points that you would have lost for the late initial post. So it is totally fine to do that. And so whenever we say the initial post is due Thursday, it is, and you would do 2 responses. If you miss the initial post deadline on Thursday, you can write 3 and still earn full credit. Cool. Yeah, some folks prefer to do it that way. It gives you more opportunity, and it just costs you 1 extra response post. And I think that's totally worth it. All right. So these are the main points that I wanted to hit about the grading. Do you have any questions that I might have missed about the grading for the discussion board and quests and stuff for week 3? By doing that, does it cause problems with GPS? No. Nope. Totally fine. Say we choose to play D&D, but we can't find a DM in the class. Can we use someone outside school that can fill that needed role? I would say yes. That should not be a problem. Cool. All right. So let's see. I believe that is all of the stuff we need to cover. It is 3:40. We went pretty good amount of time today. If you are ready to be done, I am done with my part of the content. I'm going to stick around. If you would like to hang out and ask some questions, I'm going to be available. I know I have 1 or 2 who want to hang out and ask me a couple of questions. So thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you guys being here. If you have any questions, do feel free to let your instructor know. We are happy to answer your questions. Thank you guys for coming, and talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to end the recording.